Welcome, everyone, and especially our visitors, to this online gathering with the Unitarian Universalist Church of Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm Richard Thornton, a member of this congregation. We are a welcome congregation. Whoever you are, however you identify, wherever you come from, and whoever you love, you are welcome here. Our Sunday services are different each week so that we can honor and learn from our wide array of traditions and beliefs. Today, our speaker is Jennifer Hundley Batts Thomas, and I will introduce her at a later time. Though we walk our own path here, this place, and now at this time, we journey together as one community. For the worldwide community of Unitarian Universalists, the flaming chalice is a symbol of the light of learning, the fire of our commitment, and the love within our congregation. This morning, our chalice will be lit by Michelle Steiner, one of our board members. As our congregation's chalice is lit, we give this reading from Glennon Doyle. Life cannot be handled. The secret is simply to show up. It's about witnessing it all, even the pain, and letting it touch you and make you not harder, but more tender. Showing up, feeling it all. This is my new kind of prayer. I call it praying attention, and it's how, for me, everything turns holy, by Glennon Doyle. Michelle will have our opening readings.
Holy and beautiful the custom which brings us together, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened, and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the cathedral music of history. 3 unseen guests attend, faith, hope, and love. Let all our hearts prepare them place. We will have a hymn this morning, Morning Has Broken.
We will now have a few moments of meditation, reflection, and prayer. The singing bowl will lead us into silence. After the silence, we will sing Spirit of Life. You're welcome to sing along.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
As mentioned earlier, Unitarian Universalists have a wide array of beliefs, and the speakers of our Sunday services come from many traditions. Today, Jennifer Hundley Batts Thomas will be speaking. She earned her Master's of Divinity degree from Central Baptist Theological Seminary in 2018 and is a candidate for ministry with the UUA, Unitarian Universalist Association. She raised her children in this church and believes this religious community can be a powerful force in our lives and our community. Jennifer's mother to Mary Grayson Batts and Cullen Batts, and stepmother to Liam Thomas. Jennifer shares her home with spouse Ryan, and together they enjoy music, books, and camping. Jennifer.
Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now and take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing, close in, the step you don't want to take. Poet David White did what poets do with his poem Start Close In. He summed up all I hope to tell you in today's sermon. When I first sparked the idea for today's service, I thought about the impossible situation we find ourselves in during this ongoing pandemic. This time a year ago, we were still learning about this new virus that was alarming public health officials in the U.S. and around the world. In my own life, I was keeping vigil with my mom in my dad's hospital room. The condition of our national politics was a mess. You were involved in all of the stuff of daily living and what that meant for your lives. Like many of you, I've been reflecting on what this past year has meant to us individually, as a church community, and collectively as Americans and as citizens of the world. So many things seemed impossible a year ago. We learned that in-person church services would be suspended with no known end date. There's still not a known end date. The most recent UUA recommendation was that we not gather until at least May, but that recommendation is expected to be pushed back even further soon. We were told by experts that we needed to stay home, stop going out to eat, stop going to the movies, stop seeing our families and gathering with our friends, stop shopping, stop lingering in bookstores, stop traveling. Impossible, right? But there was a time when flight seemed impossible. Going to the moon, the internet, having church online. All of these things seemed impossible at one time, but they're not. Imagine how many things we now think are impossible that will one day be realized. Imagine all the things our ancestors knew to be impossible that are part of our lives every day. Author Parker Palmer wrote in his blog post for On Being, "When I was in my 20s and living in New York City, I volunteered at a Catholic worker house on the Lower East Side. The workers at Mary House lived with the poorest of the poor, providing food, shelter, health care, and other forms of direct aid while also working for economic justice. One of those workers was Cassie Temple," he wrote. "A brilliant writer with a PhD, she could have had a comfortable academic career. Instead, she devoted her life to doing what she could to keep hungry and homeless people from starving or dying of exposure to the elements. I've never seen poverty of the sort I saw at Mary House," he wrote. "I was overwhelmed by the numbers of people who came through the bread line every day bearing the marks of deep suffering, and every time I returned, a new tidal wave of misery had washed over the place. One day I asked Cassie the question that had been vexing me. How do you keep doing this hard, heart-wrenching work when you know you'll wake up tomorrow to problems that are as bad or worse than the ones you're dealing with today?" And he said he's never forgotten Cassie's answer. She said, "What you need to understand is this: just because something's impossible doesn't mean you shouldn't do it." He continued, "I'm still trying to live into words I heard 50 years ago. Please take a moment to reflect on those words and ask yourself the two questions I ask myself. Where would we be if the Cassie Temples of this world hadn't taken on the impossible time and time again? And what task is calling to you at home, at work, in the larger world? What task do you need to embrace even though it's impossible?" Let us take a few moments to reflect on that question. What can we and should we embrace, even though we think it's impossible? Now, let's take some time to acknowledge the impossible things we've done this past year. We've made it almost a year with this new way of living. We're masking up. We're staying home. It's hard, but we're doing it. And we're caring for ourselves and each other while we stay apart. We have met this impossible task simply by doing the next thing. We bought or made masks. We've ordered groceries online. We started sending cards and letters in place of meeting for dinner. We tuned in for online concerts and game nights and church services and for work. By doing the next right thing and the next right thing, we have come to this new place. But what about those impossible things in our personal lives, in the quiet of our private lives? What about those times when we're so down that we can't get out of bed? When we've lost a job and can't muster the energy to look for another one? When we've gotten a terrifying diagnosis, or when we've lost a parent, or a partner, or a child, and the world cannot go on? What do we do then? It's the same answer as before. Do the next thing. Can't possibly get out of bed? Put your feet on the floor. That's it. Just take that impossible but simple next step to move in that direction. Can't possibly look for another job and face rejection again? The next thing is to start looking. Pick a job and fill out the application. Submit the resume. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Can't face a world without your beloved in it? Just take it 1 minute at a time. Don't try to face the whole day. Just do the next thing. Feet on the floor. Brush your teeth. Make the coffee. Take a shower. Wash your arm and then your leg. Just keep doing the next thing until you've made it through one day. You can face the next day when it comes, and then you will continue to do the next thing until that day is done. Enjoying the next thing isn't what's asked of you. Just doing it is what will get you through. The world and our own lives can be so full of impossible things that it can seem futile to even start working towards something better. We have these ideas about how things should be, these grand visions of no one going hungry, of everyone having a soft, warm bed of their own, no one turned away from the refuge they seek, our own lives simple and smooth and comfortable without heartache and struggle. Having that vision is a good thing. You have to know where you're headed, right? When my kids started driving, they compared driving a car on the road to reading music. You have to know where you are at the same time you know where you're going. But don't let the magnitude of your vision for the future prevent you from what you can do in the moment. In her poem, Solace Blessing, poet Jan Richardson reminds us about a series of next things to do when your world is frozen or when it's come apart. She writes, "That's it. That's all this blessing knows how to do. Shine your shoes, fill your refrigerator, water your plants, make some soup, all the things you cannot think to do for yourself when the world has come apart, when nothing will be normal again. Before flight was a reality, who could imagine it? This heavy object, eventually with people in it, staying up in the sky, attached to nothing, seemingly defying the law of gravity, which we all understand, traveling from here to there. Yet sketches were done, plans were made, pieces were attached to other pieces until an aircraft lifted off from solid ground and flew in the heavens from here to there. And here we all are. We're awake, seeing another day, gathered here together with our hope that as much as this year has taken from us, there is still possibility here. This week on NPR's Morning Edition, a story aired about some Oregon healthcare workers who were driving back from a COVID-19 vaccination event when they got stuck in the snow. The vaccine doses that they had with them would have expired in the time that they were stranded on the road. And so rather than having those doses go to waste, rather than getting lost in the impossibility of their situation, they simply did the next thing. They set up a makeshift roadside vaccine clinic and administered those soon-to-expire doses to their fellow travelers who were stranded there with them. Their next thing, I can imagine, was knocking on car window after car window and offering this shot of hope to people who were stuck in impossible situations. Doing the next thing isn't always going to be easy, but it is available to us. Do the next thing and the next until peace is attached to peace and what we once thought impossible is done. May it be so for each of us. Amen.
Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing your thoughts on the impossible things that we've made possible. I'm going to go off script here because that reminded me of something. A civil rights song, "We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday." Thank you. I needed that message, Jennifer. Our community is strengthened by sharing our resources. This place and the work we do is supported by the voluntary generosity of all who contribute. The offering is a sacrament of the Free Church. In offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared hopes and values. While we listen to the offertory music, we invite you to go to the website shown on the screen and donate there, or to write a check and prepare it for mailing. And feel free to put any joys and sorrows in the chat. We thank you for your generous gifts. May we use them wisely in the service of our congregation and community.
Our next hymn will be We'll Build a Land.
Restoring
Our closing reading will be number 560. Commitment. People say, "What is the sense of our small effort?" They cannot see that we must lay one brick at a time, take one step at a time. A pebble cast into a pond causes ripples that spread in all directions. Each one of our thoughts, words, and deeds is like that. No one has a right to sit down and feel hopeless. There's too much work to do.
We will now extinguish the flame. May those who have gathered together now carry the warmth of human community and the light of truth with them throughout the week. The fire is not so much extinguished as born in the heart of each person here, a new expression of the manifestation of compassionate possibilities within each soul. Go in peace, go in loving kindness, go in service to others, go in love.